The invention of calculus by the 17th century scientists Isaac Newton and Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz is considered one of the most important achievements of modern science. Researchers have found that some of the ideas and concepts of calculus were already in place in India and in the Islamic world centuries before its systemization in Europe. Indian mathematicians improved upon many Greek concepts, mainly geometry. For example, the 16th century mathematician Jeshtadevan introduced mathematical concepts combining geometry and the infinite, which predated arguments of Europeans by over 100 years. Jeshtadevan took the formula 1 divided by 1 plus x equals 1 minus x times 1 divided by 1 plus x, and, saying that the expression in the parentheses matched the expression on the left-hand side, replaced the former with the right-hand side repeatedly, thereby turning a simple fraction into an infinite series. By turning the simple fraction 1 divided by 1 plus x into an infinite series, Jeshtadevan created the sum formulas for integral powers, which were later used to develop the power series for sine, cosine, and arctangent. Thus, 200 years before Newton or Leibniz, Indian astronomers came very close to creating what we would call calculus. In the Islamic world, Ibn al-Haytham developed a formula for the sum of fourth powers of consecutive integers in order to find the volume of a paraboloid, necessary for his discoveries in his Book of Optics on how light rays are reflected off of a curved mirror. His method was essentially what is called a Riemann sum in modern calculus. He expanded upon Greek methods for computing finite sums to develop a formula for the mth power for m equals 1 to m equals 4. For m equals 4, al-Haytham came up with this formula. His proof could be easily generalized to higher powers and proof of formulas for the sum of any given power of the integers. Al-Haytham's approach to finding a volume by cutting it into ever thinner slices predates the official discovery of calculus in the 1600s by centuries. A glimpse of the connections between the medieval Islamic world, India, and Europe can be observed when looking at the etymology of the word sine. According to Datta and Sai, authors of the History of Hindu Mathematics, a sourcebook, Arab mathematicians used the term jiba for sine. This term was derived from the Sanskrit jiva. When Gerardo of Cremona translated jiba into Latin during the 12th century, he misread it as jabe, the Arabic word for bosom or bay, and translated it into sinus, from which we get sine. Thus, one of the terms in modern calculus today originated from an Arabic adaptation of an Indian Sanskrit word. The medieval Islamic 15th century Indian and 17th century European worlds are far more connected than is portrayed in popular history. In fact, Islamic scholars learned much from Indian mathematicians and astronomers. Europe, in turn, would learn it from the Islamic world. For example, one essential stepping stone for calculus was algebra, which was developed in the Islamic world and transmitted to Europe. Thus, through a series of exchanges and improvements between 3 worlds and 3 time periods, Newton and Leibniz were given the toolkit needed to invent calculus in the 17th century.